And good morning.
And good morning to you. How are you?
So I'm excited for the show today, Bob.
It's good. You know, we already have one person saying good afternoon from Norway.
Well, there you go. All right.
It's pretty
Great.
cool.
It's a good friend. Good to see you today.
And how have you been, Pastor Bob?
We got Barren Cross on the show, Bob.
Barren Cross. That means something to us old school metalheads.
It does.
That's like
Ray
that's
Ray
huge.
and Jimbo are here with us, and that's going to be a lot of fun. We got their metal report. We got a new band today. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we got Nate and Alex from Saved by Scarlet, and they're over on the East Coast, so they're joining us. I got to know them a little bit through playing their music on Rock Church Radio, and
Awesome.
a really good band. So
Bob, you do a radio show called Rock Church, and
yeah.
Tell us about that. Tina, good morning to you from West Hollywood.
So the show that I do is called Rock Church Radio, and basically the way it started was we approached the local station here in town, and it's a new station that started in our little city of 6,500 people, and it was all rock, and they played Nickelback as well, which we'll forgive them for that. It's not right. But I pitched the show to them doing a half hour of Christian rock, and they said, well, why don't you do that during the Sunday morning slot? And so here we are playing all Christian metal and death metal and rock from years gone by and current. So it's been really cool.
Awesome. And people can listen to it if they go to the URL on the screen.
Yep, they can go there, listen to the latest episode, and order some cool swag as well. So that's
there you go. It's the episode epicenter, rockchurchradio.com.
Yep.
Cool.
Well, we got more people joining us this morning. We have Roy Vicks from Alabama, from Africa that he was in. So
he's back from Africa. That's awesome.
We got Vernon from Vernon, British Columbia.
Great.
Karen, we got them from all over today, from your hometown here, Montana.
Oh, Bozeman's not very far. Good morning, Andrew. Andrew's a truck driver, so he gets around. And, just a few days ago in Montana, my brother still lives in Montana. I grew up there. And just a few days ago, we were comparing weather, and it's in the mid 80s here.
Yeah.
And it was 90 degrees there for a few days.
Wow.
Yesterday, he sends me a picture and there's snow covering the ground.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, that quickly. Did you get some snow in Wisconsin?
No, we've been hanging out in the 60s, which is really nice because I'm trying to finish painting my house. And but it's not long before the bottom falls out here. One person's asking, swag? Yes, that it's not an acrostic or an acronym like that. It's just it's the hip term for tchotchkes or souvenirs.
Yeah, exactly. So. Stuff we have to sell, which, by the way, as always, we are brought to you by Headbangers Brew, our very own coffee. There it is in the K-Cups.
Yes. And
here it is in my cup. And, Bob, it's the best coffee in the world, if I say so myself.
Hey, Jeffrey, he says, good morning, good day, Pastor Bob, all the way from Philippines.
That's great, Jeffrey. Good to see you today.
I have my aunt and uncle live in Baguio City in the Philippines. So
cool. Yeah. That's probably the biggest city in the Philippines. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, isn't this how the old coffee jingle went? The best part of waking up is Pastor Bob in your cup.
That's exactly right.
That's what I thought. That's how it went. Yeah.
So I have the coolest mug here. It says, no matter how many people cut me off in traffic, I know that I am blessed. Because, that's the time. There's probably nothing more frustrating than dealing with traffic.
Yeah.
So
I'll humbly admit, sometimes when I'm cut off in traffic, I don't pray blessings over the person. It's forgive me, Father, for I've sinned. So.
Well, my pet peeve is people that don't use turning signals, and that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I get behind people, and you have to kind of guess what they're doing, and I've had several near hits, near accidents because people just don't use their turning signal. So one time I was following Jim Laverty. He's probably listening right now. I was following Jim Laverty, his car ahead of me, and I was following him. And all the way there, he didn't use his turning signal. Just saying.
The Holy Spirit's conviction is strong right now.
Well, I know. And, you think a guy's perfect, and then you find out that.
Hey, you've addressed this before. Can you address Jeffrey's question if he can get coffee in the Philippines? Or
you can get coffee, just not ours.
Okay.
And I wish you could. And, we're really working on international distribution, but man, it's really tough.
Yeah. Here's one from Chile. That's good to have you with us, Alexis.
Great. Well, we have some people from all over, from Nottingham in the UK. Sean, good to see you.
Truck driver here.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you've got a lot of them. David, good to see you this morning. He says turn signals and rear view mirrors are optional equipment. No one uses them anymore. That is true.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's a little dangerous on the road, a lot more dangerous than it used to be. That's
Yep. So we're staying busy here in Wisconsin, and like you said, is it snowing yet? And it's not, but we're rapidly approaching it. And I actually took on a little bit of a different, not a different, I'm still pastoring, but extra little gig. There's a homeless program here in town that asked me if I'd come on and help them as their program manager. So,
oh wow,
that's kind of cool.
Well, that's very cool.
Yeah, it's a good way to stay involved in the community. And if anybody wants to check it out, it's called Foundations for Living. So it's
wasn't that the name of Chuck Swindoll's program, or Insight for Living? That was
Insight for Living. There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's they liked what I've been doing with our homeless ministry at the church, which isn't very big, but and some of the stuff we do. So they said, hey, would you come on and help us out? And it's a parachurch organization. So I thought that's another good way into the community, and on the other side of things, it pads my wallet a little more. So,
Yes, exactly.
But
well, Bob, we've got Lebo coming up also a little later on in the show, with kind of an update with the homeless ministry. And, I wanted to give people a little bit of a heads up. If you have some questions for Lebo about what we're doing with the homeless or homeless ministry in general, or if you just have questions, we're going to take quite a bit of time at the end of the show today for questions and for comments. And I'm looking forward to that part.
Yeah. I know Nate's excited. He's in our green room right now, and he's saying, hey, guys, Nate from the rock band Saved by Scarlet. So
awesome. Good to see you, Nate. Great band.
Yep.
Yes.
So, well, what do you think? Should we go into our first segment? Both Ray and Jim are in the virtual green room here. And so I think we could probably welcome them in.
The Legends of Rock.
Yes. What's the Wayne's World? We're not worthy.
We're not worthy.
No. All right. Well, let's welcome them in for the Legends Confession. And there they are.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
We're legends in our own mind.
Awesome. Well, it's good to see you guys. Jim lives about a mile from me.
Yeah. This is what I hear.
But I ever see him, but he lives about a mile from me.
Sorry, Bob, but I pass by and honk every time I pass your.
And Jim, judging from where you are right now,
Ray, you just moved to Texas.
Yes, we did 4 months ago.
So how do you like it there?
It's pretty amazing. it is a completely different lifestyle. We had talked about this before I made the move, and I could spend all morning talking about this, but I'll give you the best story I have. I'm walking my dog this morning, and I got my poop bag in my hand, of course. And the garbage truck guy stops the truck and jumps off and says, "Hey, do you want me to take that for you?" And I'm like, I just can't even believe it. I just can't even believe how friendly everybody is here. So
isn't that awesome? And that is the South. That's the way people are.
it is the South. It has just been fabulous.
So Ray, you and Jim and I a few years ago, we're all California escapees. There's a huge difference in culture, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I went to the DMV and they helped me.
Yeah.
Only Californians get that joke. Everyone else is going, well, of course they do. No, only Californians get that joke. The DMV was helpful. I'm not going to bore you.
Hey, Ray, I guarantee you there's a lot of people in Tennessee that get that joke too, because a lot of folks have moved from California to Nashville.
A lot of folks have, haven't they?
Yeah. So we go into the DMV, we're scared, and when we get to the front of the line, we're just like, wow, what planet am I on?
Yeah. You had a line?
Yeah, 2-3 people. Not bad.
Oh, that's great. It's been great here. It's been a good move. It's beautiful. It's green. It's lush. There's lots of deer. I live a little bit out in the sticks, so it's been all good.
So you want to see what I did yesterday? You can see that picture. We're still wakeboarding.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah, that's my son. He's out there on a wakeboard. So yeah, the weather's pretty nice here still. And the water
It is. It's beautiful.
On the verge of being too cold, but it's still not very nice.
So it looks like, Jim, you're in a camper or something. I was going to say, where are you living right now? In a van down by the river?
No, it's going to be live from my 34-foot RV.
Nice.
Parked in my driveway.
There you go.
So
he's an RVer.
Yes, I am. I've taken this RV all over the country. It's been great. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I like following your journeys.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Barren Cross. And you guys, for a whole lot of years, I always felt like the fifth member of the band. We did a whole lot of stuff together, and we gosh, what a great ministry. It's a ministry that keeps on going. Barren Cross was started in 84, is that right?
The end of 83.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a bracelet
a couple
that
years
says
ago,
Barren
right?
Cross, November 83.
Isn't there a cake? Isn't there a cake that says the same? They made a cake.
Yeah, there's a cake too. I don't have the cake anymore though. I have the bracelet.
So a question that people have is, how did you come up with the name Barren Cross?
Boy, I don't remember. I think I came up with it, but I don't remember what the inspiration was, to be honest. It just kind of rolled off my tongue one day as we were trying to think of names probably. And it was just the one that I guess was least offensive.
Yeah. And it had the word cross in it. In those days, there was Barren Cross and neon cross and white cross. And I remember we made a joke one day. We said we should do a band called Holy Bloody Cross, because you saw those three words in everything. And I'll never forget the day when in our mail at Sanctuary, somebody sent us a demo from a band called Holy Bloody Cross.
Holy Bloody Cross, Batman.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, your first album, Rock for the King, was a game changer for a lot of things in music. It was a time when Christian metal was just starting. Stryper had just come on the scene, and you guys were kind of early with the whole thing. You did Rock for the King, and tell us about how that album happened and how it came to be.
Right.
You want to say? Well, I can tell you exactly what happened. Jim came to the band one day and says, "We need to do a record." And we looked at him cross-eyed going, "How in the world do you do a record? And where do we get the money to do a record?" But he was adamant. He said, "We have to put out an album." And so we just started going. You know, I think his dad was the first one that he approached and contributed probably a bulk of the money towards the record. And then we looked at some studios. I can't remember how we found Dino. Probably Steve found Dino because he was the little detective guy. But you know, Dino was willing to take a down payment and credit while we did the record and raised funds to do this album.
Yes.
And it was pretty amazing. It wasn't that much for us. It was a lot of money. It was what, $60,000, and I remember friends of ours just coming through and saying, "Yeah, I'll contribute $50 or $100," and
but people really got behind it.
Absolutely, people that you wouldn't even think. You know, people from our straight-laced church, you know, were like, "Yeah, I can see the ministry in that," and. You know, we had one friend of mine at the time contributed $500. I mean, that was a lot of money for a young family. He just starting out, got married. So pretty amazing. But Jim really had the inspiration.
You guys were on the forefront of Kickstarter there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we needed Kickstarter really, but we had Godstarter.
There you go.
We had Godstarter.
Perfect.
Which is even better. Yes.
Let me make a comment about Ray. Is that one night the Lord gave me a dream, and we were doing a record, and it was so real that I was like, when I woke up, I felt like I was in the presence of the Lord. I was like, you know, this dream is so real to me. Lord, just give me one sign that this is from you, you know. And my dad, I don't know if you remember this, Ray, but my dad just popped into my room. I was still living at home, and popped into my room, and he says, "You know, I've been thinking you guys ought to do a record." And yeah, so I was like, okay, so that had to be from the Lord. And then the finances, you know, came through. And Ray, correct me if I'm wrong, but we needed like an extra $500 or $1,000, and there was a woman that was walking down the street where we were rehearsing, saw the Metal for the King record, and you know, was just felt inspired to you know, contribute like the last $500. Just yeah, so we were seeing miracle after miracle happen. It was a miracle that we were able to even get in with John and Dino Elefante.
Yeah.
And so. Yeah.
And we never been. I mean, I'd never seen a studio before. I don't think any of us had. It was just outside of doing demos.
Yeah.
It was an all new experience, and it was.
When Ray and I went to Mastodon Studios, like our eyes were like this, and we were like, "Wow," you know. But you know, there was favor. God had given us favor with a lot of people back then, and
yes,
you know, we thought that here we got the new singer for Kansas and his brother. There's no way that they're gonna, want to work with guys, that don't have anything going for them, and they just opened their doors to us, and it was truly a work of God.
Yeah, and they really put their best foot forward. It wasn't a knockoff. I mean, we had to cut a little bit of some corners, but they didn't treat it anything different than let's make a record.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
And
so cool.
we didn't know anything about guys coming in and producing our record too. So, you remember this, Ray? I mean, Dino starts picking our music. When we started working with him, Dino started picking our music apart. We're like, "What are you doing to our songs? Get your
what do you mean it can't be 15 minutes? We can't have any 15-minute songs?
What do you mean?"
And And Dino can be brutal, you know, if you're going to be broken in the studio
Oh, yeah.
and in the industry, Dino's the guy to do it. He doesn't pull any punches.
Well, he and Ray, I mean, look what he did with Imaginary Music, you know.
Yeah.
That was a totally different song. And we were just like, you know, we were having band huddles. What is this guy doing to us, you know? But what the outcome was he heard something that we couldn't hear.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, so
Amazing.
yeah.
Well, and Dino went from there, and Dino and John, to do a ton of albums with us. So many bands, so many projects, and I think we all spent hundreds of hours in the studio.
Yeah.
And you know, I still have on my wall up here the sign that used to
Custom
be in
stove
front
covers?
of the studio, that it says Custom Stove Covers Incorporated. Do you remember that, Ray?
Yeah.
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 So when they
Yeah.
moved the studio, Dino gave me the sign, and I still have it on my wall.
That's
But
great.
just a random thing, because they didn't want anybody to know where the studio was.
What is this?
And,
What is a custom stove cover?
They just made it up.
Hmm.
That's awesome.
We just talked about Pachyderm in the last episode, and just how much good music came from that studio and
Yeah.
what those guys did for the industry.
And they weren't afraid to take a chance with some of the stuff on the edge. And you guys remember, in those days, most people were not willing to take a chance. Most record companies. I had one
Oh, yeah.
record company that was doing Christian rock that said, "You guys are going too far. This line, there's a line here, and you're crossing it. You're going too far with it." And gave me this big speech about how, you know, this music couldn't possibly be used for the Lord. And then just a few years later, he came to me and he said, "Do you have any bands that I can sign?" So, you know, I think a lot of people, they just needed to watch it for a while. They needed to see what was going on. And that's the cool part. When you think of Barren Cross, you think of great music, you think of great stage presence, but you also think of, you know, one of the guys there with his Bible open, sharing the word of God. And that was important for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. The show had to have some type of meaning. Maybe just to back up a little bit. I mean, we sent our demo, what was our record, to all the Christian labels, you know, and I love the saying, you know, our best laid plans make God laugh, because, you know, we were signed, you know, they all turned us down, except for finally Star Song came around, I guess, and said,
Yeah.
okay, we'll take a chance. But, you know, that plan of just being, not just being, but being a Christian artist exclusively just wasn't in the plan. And to get signed on Enigma Records was far beyond what we thought would ever happen.
Huge. Yes. Yes.
So it's just, you know, we just walk through whatever God had planned for us. But as far as the show goes, you know, I think Jim and I had lots of conversations about, you know, what provides meaning to a show without being showy. I think it really just came down to, we said, we're just going to preach the word in bite-sized pieces. We're not going to jump around and, you know, have big giant Jesus signs and things like that, but we're going to just preach bite-sized snippets of what God says and see who gets hooked. And that was really the whole motivation. We talked a lot about this. I mean, we've cleared clubs. We had a packed house. I mean, there was people outside the door, and you know, and I got up and talked, and half the club left, and Jim got up and he cleared the rest of it.
Hey, that happened. That
you know, those things
happened.
happen, but at the same time, you know, I met a guy. It's been a little while now, probably a little after I got married, you know, late '90s. I was in a Guitar Center, and a buddy of mine goes, "Wait a minute," and I'm like, "Okay." And this huge Marine is walking at me, you know, not walking to me, walking at me. And he comes up and he grabs me and he hugs me. And I'm looking at my buddy going, "Okay, what's going on here?" And he goes, just wait a minute. And when he's done hugging me, he goes, I got saved at your show in East Germany because I was stationed in the military there.
Oh,
Wow.
that's
Wow,
awesome.
dude.
That's awesome.
That's
man.
awesome.
Hey, you know what?
The hook.
Let me make a comment off of Ray's comment there. One of the most gratifying feelings that you can have is when people get saved at a concert, give their hearts to Christ, and then 20 years later you read about the fact that they're pastoring a church. I think that's a phenomenal event, and any person that's been in evangelism or is to know that they had somebody that gave their heart to Christ and now is actively pursuing ministry in a church or an evangelist or feeding the homeless. And so, yeah.
And I remember a couple that actually came to church. She was pregnant. And after the baby was born, we dedicated the baby. And they gave their story. They said that they had been to a Barren Cross concert. You guys did Killers of the Unborn. They were scheduled for an abortion the next day, if you remember.
Yeah.
And they decided not to have it. And they named their daughter Brittany Christine, BC, Barren Cross, after you guys. And now he actually owns a Christian record company. But
wow.
There are those kind of stories all day long, aren't there?
Yeah. I think one of the things. Oh, sorry, Ray.
Go ahead, Jumbo.
Okay. I think one of the things that got me hooked into the band early on was our very first show, or I think, Ray, we were playing at a girls' home, and so we went in and we played, and there was a girl that heard the message but had scheduled her. She had planned to take her life that night, and
wow,
and decided not to do it because of the message. We were just the messengers, but the message that was spoke from the stage encouraged her enough to not go through with her plans for that night. And I thought, man,
cool.
there's something there, and
yes,
you see a lot of that stuff when you get on the front lines, people that are in evangelism in foreign countries, and you see God's hand in a lot of in a lot of situations like that. So
yes.
Yeah.
And if you've noticed, there's a lot of people commenting that became Christians through Barren Cross.
Yeah.
We had one just a second ago, Bob, that somebody that became a Christian at your concert in Stuttgart.
Oh.
Yeah,
There you go.
amazing. There he is.
There it is.
Sigmar.
It was a great night for Barren Cross, where I had given my heart to Christ. 4/15/1990.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's something.
It is. It is awesome. So there's a legacy here, and you guys have, nobody knew how to do a Christian metal band in those days. What did you do? How do you promote it? How do you sign it? How do you do concerts? What kind of concerts should you do? Should you just do Christian only metal concerts, or do you mix it up? And what about touring? Whoever thought of doing that besides Stryper? So there were a lot of questions, and it was kind of a learn as you go situation. What do you think kept Barren Cross on track, kept you going, and kept you kind of plowing through all the unknowns in those days?
Well, it was a step by step. There wasn't very many people doing it. I think the guy that booked our tour was the only guy that would book a tour.
Really?
It wasn't like as though we had we're going to choose from 7 companies to see who might want to do this. It was like he's the only one, and thank God he was there to actually create this tour, especially the first ones.
Wow, that's
so I
amazing.
think there's probably inspiration on all sides. He has this business, he has this vision from God that says you need to book bands around the country, and we just kind of all stepped together. that's probably the best way I can explain it. That as everyone was obedient, it kind of it amalgamated for everybody. And as we toured, then it opened up venues for other bands to come through because there was more of an open mind to book heavy metal bands.
Yes.
So that's probably the best way to explain it. Everybody was obedient in their respective places, and God moved collectively.
And Ray, there was a niche to be filled as well. Once you started and once other bands started, it exploded because there were so many people that were waiting for this to happen.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I remember soon after I got saved, I was listening to Black Sabbath and Deep Purple and all the usual bands, and I was asking my Bible study leader, is there any heavy metal music? And she goes, oh yeah, there's this great guy called Phil Keggy.
Oh yeah.
And I said, well, I'm going to go buy his record. And as phenomenal as he is, I was, okay, this is not what we're talking about. And then they said, well, you need to do res band. Okay, well, we're getting closer. So there really was nothing there.
No, nothing to compare it to.
Yeah.
I do find it amazing that even today there's, and you've probably seen it on Facebook, there's posts like top 10, 20 best Christian album covers, and Rock for the King is still one of them, placed higher up on the list.
Well,
yes,
it depends on which list you're reading.
Well, I understand that, yes, but it's just amazing. Like, it's always there, like Barren, that Rock for the King album, whether they're making fun of it or not, it's just like it's there.
It was the Pajama Party album cover.
That's awesome. Well, and when you consider it, in a couple of years, it'll be 40 years since you guys started the band.
I think it's time to reenact that cover for a 40th anniversary.
I think so. That's a good idea.
Ray always makes these funny comments about us being in our 50s doing in spandex.
Yeah.
Oh,
a frightful image, sir.
That is a real scary image. Oh my God, it was scary at that time.
Yeah. Well, I had a pair of spandex that our manager back then had made that looked like varicose veins coming up the side of my calves. So they called them the varicose pants. Terrible.
Oh, those were the days. Those were the days.
Yeah.
I don't know how much time we have, but a
couple minutes.
Oh, we do? Okay. There was a template for me because I went to Magic Mountain probably in 1980, probably the early 80s before I joined the band. And I remember going to see Undercover. And I remember walking into the show, and Joe Taylor had his Bible open, and he was so good from he was good about giving something to the audience. And
Yes.
and I thought to myself, if I ever had that opportunity, I would like to do the same thing, Lord. And then of course they went on, and then they played a few worship songs at the end as well. And I just felt in my soul that someday, I may have the opportunity to do this, and if I do, Lord, I'd like to follow after that example. And so pretty much every show that we did, Ray would bring out the word and say something directly from the scripture, because all scripture is inspired by God and it's profitable for teaching, reproof, and correction. And and it never comes back void. And so, yeah.
No, they were definitely instrumental. I think for all of us, they laid out such a great framework, as Jim said, template that worked. I mean, kids were getting saved at their shows. I was floored. I wasn't even a punk rocker, but I got to know the Jim guitar player a little bit. Just the course of their playing. So we all get our inspirations from others.
Yes. Well, speaking of that, we have a new band that we want to introduce. And Bob, this band is called Saved by Scarlet.
Yes.
They are in the green room. I want you guys to stay,
Okay.
and I would like you to help do the interview.
Okay.
And you know, it's kind of good for a newer band to have some of the older guys with some experience. You know, the Bible says the older men teach the younger men, the older women teach the younger women. What a great opportunity you old guys have, you know, with this generation. So, Bob, let's bring them on.
Okay. There they are. There's Nate and Matt.
Hello.
How you guys doing, Alex?
Hi, fellas.
Good.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good.
Good
Good
to
to
be
be
here.
aboard. So
Thanks for having us.
yeah, so Saved by Scarlet, they're from Rhode Island, and a band that I got to know. They requested if they could play some music on Rock Church Radio, and I said yeah, and only if you do a plug, and then I'd like to invite you onto this show with us, and
Great.
the rest is history. And obviously, we got twin brothers here. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure. Identical twin brothers. And my brother Nate is actually the older one by 12 minutes.
Wow.
Well, there
I
you go.
thought so. I was seeing a little few extra wrinkles on you, Nate.
Hey, listen, Bob. They call us lightning and thunder. You see
Oh,
me
yeah,
first, and
yeah.
then you hear him.
Right.
Nice.
Well, you guys,
I got Alex here, but he's seems to be glitching out a little bit. So when he's able to get in, we'll add him in as well. He
You know
plays
what? They
rhythm
always
guitar.
do that to the rhythm
See
guitar
me?
player.
Right.
Or the
so
drummer.
you guys, we are excited to have you on the show today. We're excited to learn about the band, and we asked Ray and Jim to stay with us. And I don't know if you know Barren Cross. It's quite a few
Yes.
years ago, but they were some of the
I've heard of them.
pioneers in Christian metal way back when. And I thought it would be kind of a cool thing just to kind of keep them and on. We just did an interview with them and to kind of have them part of our conversation. So
Sounds great.
again, thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about the band, your history, how'd you get started, and what's going on.
Oh, wow. Well, we actually did a radio interview with Solid Rock Radio yesterday. So I'm going to, luckily, they warmed me up because there's a lot to it without taking too much time. And Alex will be right back. I think he's reconnecting due to his internet connection. But Saved by Scarlet essentially started as a 3-piece band. We were a cover band. We would take apart Skillet songs, Flyleaf songs, and Evanescence songs, and we would essentially cover them. And my brother and I would practice sometimes as long as 6-8 hours consecutively, just ripping solos and learning how to read tablature, and then also doing real music lessons with a professional. And so throughout that time, you know, we started really enjoying music and falling in love with not only the Lord, but also the music. And both together, you know, can create a power punch, which is amazing. And being able to see and experience that power punch, man, is incredible. Being able to rock out and also deliver the word of God, and not only on stage, but what we like to say is like on stage and off stage is important, because I feel like especially nowadays, there's a lot of connectedness with social media. And if you are weak, and if you are displaying, you know, if one person's over here, the other person's over there, this person's living this lifestyle and this person's down here, and like people pick up on that. And so like when you're united and you show that you're a brotherhood on stage, that, you know, that you care about each other, that you're walking in faith. And it doesn't mean, you know, none of us are perfect. Nobody is. But being able to be real and share the word of God in a very applicable way seriously grabs people's attention. We've had bouncers come to the Lord. There was one guy that came over after a show, and he told us that his mother was dying from cancer, and he asked us to pray with him right there. And he was this huge jack dude. It was so great to experience that. But the reason I include that is because those were a part of the things that started to shape and mold us and show us like, hey, like despite naysayers, despite, you know, even people from church, who didn't like rock because of the devil. You know, those experiences that God brought to us and that we faithfully had to keep pushing through adversity, those things were the pillars that helped us keep going. And because we did, when we released Conquerors in 2016, that was kind of like our, we crossed over a threshold, you know. We ended up being able to reach people all around the world with that song. And it, to this day, is still our anthem. And that song's based off of Romans 8:37 through 39. So yeah, I mean, that was really kind of the start of Saved by Scarlet. We were reading in the book of Joshua when it talks about how Rahab actually hid two of God's servants who had been spying on the city of Jericho. And they ducked into there to escape the guards. And because she saved their life, she essentially chose to follow the Lord instead. And she believed them. And when they were going to be leaving, they said, "Thank you. You've done the Lord a great service. You've protected us," and essentially was a key part in winning the battle overall. And so the prophet said, "The Lord is going to spare your life if you throw a scarlet rope out of your window." And she said, instead of her saying, "Oh my God, thank you," and like letting it just be that, she still pursued God by saying, and by the way, showing that she fully believed in what she said next. She said, "Well, can you please save my family too? Please, I'm begging you." And they said, "Yes, the Lord your God will save your family as well, not just you." And that really spoke to me. That was about 2015, right before we released Conquerors. We used to be called Fireproof and Rising Ashes. And so the name change came because of that book and that story in the Bible. And essentially, it was a foreshadowing of how God can not only use anybody, because mind you, Rahab was a prostitute, and she's actually in the lineage of Jesus Christ. So God literally used someone in this critical moment, even though she didn't even believe in God beforehand, you know? And that was just like so mesmerizing to me and impacted me so much. So I went to Matt and I went to our drummer at the time and I said, "Look, this is an amazing story. The word like scarlet really rings a bell. We love the color red." I mean, we've got some on here. And it all blended so well together. And we wanted to have a band name that would cause people to think and ask, like, how did the band get started? What does the name mean, you know? And so like that kind of encapsulates all of like how Saved by Scarlet was started. And then we met Alex and Adam. The rest was history, man.
Well, and I should mention that we have Alex in the room now. The rhythm guitarist finally showed
Hey,
up.
Alex.
Finally. Hey guys, what's up?
You made it.
Good to see you, dude.
Hey, Nate, was just gonna ask something. You know, the topics that are discussed in today's society is nothing new that bands addressed, like Barren Cross, even back in the early 80s and stuff. But do you guys see, you know, I noticed like bands like you guys, GFM, some of these younger bands that are starting up, you guys really take a bend towards like emotion, suicide, stuff like that. You know, these are they're heavy topics, but and perhaps it's because, and Pastor Bob, Jim, Ray, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like kids today have a even more pressure and tension to live under in the world today, making the topics you guys hit on even, not that they weren't important. I hope that this comes out right, but that like this is a big thrust of your ministry.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely is. I'm gonna take the wheel on this one.
What was that, Nate?
Matt, I said I'd let you take the wheel on this one if you want, or Alex.
I'm sorry, guys. My connection totally bogged out, so I had to dip out for a second because I'm at work. But I'm back, and I'm not sure if I got the full aspect of the question, but if that could be repeated, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, what I was saying is, you know, bands, the Christian bands, even from the days of Barren Cross and earlier through the Jesus movement, you know, always hit topics head on. But I think more so, you see bands like you guys and GFM and others that are the younger bands coming up. You guys are really hitting on issues of emotions, suicide, even a few years ago, there was the whole movement of it was a whole movement to write love on your arms,
Yes.
Oh
stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Do you guys see that as a void being skipped over by Christian music today? That the metal industry, metal music is still willing to hit head on?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I think that
Definitely.
I definitely think that there is a void, that it's almost a topic that a lot of whether it's Christians or almost churches almost want to dismiss, to the point where they will just kind of say like, Jesus loves you, why don't you get that? But it's like those people are going through pain. And as we know from the Bible itself, different people go through different things and need different solutions, which is why God said in Isaiah, behold, I'm doing a new thing. Because there's always a lot of new things that keep coming up, though history is repeated. There's different, variables in our generations. And so I believe that Saved by Scarlet, and like you were saying, GFM and other younger bands rising up, realize that we have a connection to this modern generation, that connection could be overlooked by others who aren't necessarily maybe watching the news or just kind of really in touch with the reality of depression or other types of illnesses and disorders that can be a chemical imbalance or situational or chronic. And I'm super happy to hear that someone else other than ourselves realizes that this is a thing, that it is real, it's happening. Teens are cutting themselves, and we know it's not of God, but we also want to encourage them to keep pushing through it and not just condemn them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we have a song that called "Surrender All." That one I had personally taken time in the studio to write and create, and my fiance helped as well, and then Matt helped with a lot of the finishing touches and different aspects of it. And this was like right when we got Adam, our drummer, in, and Alex. So like they kind of just missed that part, but we perform it live now, all of us together with the same passion. And that's that song "Surrender All" has a very compelling lyric video that Matt put together on YouTube. It stands to be one of our most impacting songs. And I would seriously encourage, not just young people, but older people too, to please listen to it, because that song has so much passion and it's beautiful. It's climactic. It goes from like a soft ballad and is really, really daunting. And, with violins and different instruments that really bring something up in you, that feeling of like, wow, you can like really, really feel like someone is walking you through a song and taking you to a climactic end that is like, just like, wow, God, you capture me in love is the last lyric. But it addresses a lot of the emotional pain that people go through, things like cutting, suicidal ideation. And my brother and I both work in the mental health field. So that has absolutely made an impact on our music a little bit as well. And we see the real need for people to leave their home,
Right,
or wherever they're at, come to a concert and feel separated from the world and able to take time. Is somebody's phone like buzzing?
Somebody's phone's buzzing.
It
Not
sounds
mine.
like it, yes.
And people need that when people go to concerts, when people go to Barren Cross concerts, Saved by Scarlet concerts, any concerts, they're usually leaving somewhere and going somewhere else. And when that happens, sometimes kids need to be away from their parents. And a lot of parents don't like to hear this, but this is the truth. There are a lot of hurting people that in front of parents, in front of different people, maybe even church leaders, they need to be away from that and then hear the word of God sometimes, because a lot of people need that affirmation and need to hear it from outside sources, places that you may not otherwise think. Majority of the people who get saved out of our entire crew are people who came thinking this was just an ordinary concert. And that is the truth. And we've had over 375 people saved. And I'll stand by that till I die. And it's just amazing to know that, like, sometimes when people have an idea or a picture in their head of like what a Christian band is, they picture something that's not really how it is, and then when you shatter that mentality by surprise, and then they hear the word of God and match that with the time that the Holy Spirit is moving, it is a powerhouse, man.
And let me comment on that for just a minute. This year I will have been working in pioneering Christian rock for 50 years. 50
Wow.
years. I'm old now. But not only that, but a lot of it has been starting festivals and different ministries around the world. One of the things that I know from the very beginning, and I was in the very beginning with Larry Norman and all of the early guys, and Keith Green. But then when we started in pioneering Christian metal, we started setting up festivals and started setting up concert venues and
That's
and
awesome.
and pioneering it. But one of the things that all of that has in common from the early days, 50 years ago, of Christian rock to today is that God chooses people with a heart for people.
Amen.
People whose hearts are willing to be broken, people who have a message for the hurting. And it's not just music, it's not just lyrics, it's a band living their lives in front of people.
Yep.
We always used to say with Barren Cross, I know you guys, that some of the most important times aren't the concert, it's before and after the concert, when you're talking to people, when you're communicating. The messages, 50 years ago we were doing songs about suicide and frustrations and trouble and addictions and all of that. Every generation does them because God gives us a burden for it. He gives us an opportunity to present an answer. And that, the Barren Cross guys are here. They've been all over the world and many albums and probably too many concerts to remember. But in all of those days, that was the message. We've had so many people that say, yes, I became a Christian at a Barren Cross concert. And I'm hoping that you guys will have tons of them in your future too. But but isn't the answer, you guys, to stay in touch, to stay relevant, to keep your heart broken for people, to not just judge sin, but to mourn the sin of people and to make sure your hearts are connected. Jim, Ray, do you guys have any comments on that?
Ray?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with what you said. I think there's pockets of time when we took our eye off the ball, and you can see how the ministry ebb and flows when that happens. But when the four of us were in tune not only with each other but in tune with what God was telling us to do, it was unstoppable. There was just so many good things that would take place at a show, or mainly at Denny's. I mean, we'd always invite fans out to Denny's afterwards.
That's awesome.
It was just
that's actually where I ended up meeting Matt for the first time, was at a Denny's.
Yeah,
Perfect.
That's awesome. Yeah, we used to put up with the bad food for fellowship, right? Yeah.
There's only so much. There's only so much you can do to apple pie a la mode.
That's right. That's true.
Can't mess that up.
Well, you guys, this has been a great discussion, and thank you
Absolutely.
all for joining us on the show today. We'd love to have you all back at one point.
Yes.
And God bless you in your ministries, you guys. Those of you that are just starting, and Jim and Ray, who continue to get older, and just
Thanks.
deteriorate. But God bless you anyway.
And hey, I should mention Saved by Scarlet. You can check them out. They're on Facebook, their website. They're all over the place, and they're very much reachable. And
Awesome.
They would love to hear from everybody that's watching right now. So check them out.
Well, you guys have been awesome. I love your heart. I love what you're doing, and God bless you.
Yes,
God
thanks
bless
guys
you.
for being on.
Thank you so much for having us.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
Thank
to
you
meet you,
guys.
fellas.
We appreciate you.
Okay.
God
Thank you very much. It's been an awesome pleasure doing this interview with you guys.
Thank you. Great.
See you later, Barren Cross.
Awesome.
See you guys.
See you later, guys. Be safe. God bless.
All right. Well,
All right.
Bob, that was fun.
Yeah, it's always good to have those moments where people, the older band, can mentor the younger, and
Yes.
it's not a pride thing or anything like that. It's just
No.
like it's like you and I. Like your mentor was Chuck Swindoll. Mine is you and another pastor down in Milwaukee, and it's like we need that in any vocation we're in.
Yes, absolutely. And mentoring and discipleship are paramount and the foundation of what we do.
Yeah,
Well, we have Lebo waiting for us. I hope.
guess
Is
we
he there?
do. Yeah. So, he looks like he's driving, but let's have him come on
Yeah.
in.
Great.
All right. Let's see here. Somewhere around here is. Sometimes it gets a little mixed up here, but
That's okay.
today we're going to call him a metal missionary.
You are now a metal missionary, Lebo.
Yes. Rock for the King.
All right.
See what I did there? See what I did
Yes.
there? Uh-huh.
I love
Barren
it.
Cross.
Well, Lebo is the guy that runs our homeless ministries here. And but Lebo, one thing that people might not know about you is that you are also into music. You've had several bands and you continue to sharpen up, and you're ready for another one.
You mean the
You're
beer
just
doesn't
cool
give
like
it away?
that. Yeah, I think it does. I think it does.
Yeah,
You're cool,
music's
dude.
always been a huge part of my life and my passion. So I'm blessed to be able to be the missionary.
Yes.
If you will, as you create an uplifting environment. I like playing a lot of gospel music.
Yes.
Yep. You're in good
it
company
looks like
there.
he's kind of fading in and out there.
Yeah, looks like we have a poor connection, but there he is.
There he is. Okay, good.
Okay.
So
All right. Did y'all get that?
we
You love
did.
gospel music, and you
Yes.
love Amy Grant. That's all we got.
Yeah. Only if Amy Grant decides to sing for Tourniquet.
Yeah, there you go.
Together
Right.
again.
Yeah. So, Lebo, let's talk a little bit about the homeless ministry. I know you're driving, and I appreciate you, cutting in with us here. But we've been seeing in the last week or two a whole lot more people on the streets than normal. We're feeding a lot more than we have been.
Yeah. Well, it's getting that time of year. Bob, as you know, time of year, a few things happen. One, you have some folks moving from the north, trying to come to warmer areas.
Yeah.
We've had a few camps that the city has shut down. So the camps that we serve are being kind of condensed in those camps.
Yes.
coming from other camps and coming from places like Clarksville, and where I think they had a fire in their over there a little while back. And then also, this is the time of year where, well, some of our younger people, you know, there are people who have been in like the foster care system, and
Yes.
they've turned of age, and now they're no longer in the system, and they haven't really been prepared for life, and they're kind of booted out, and so they're on the street.
40% of them. 40% of foster care people that are in foster care will be on the streets when they're 18. Yeah. And we do get a number of them. It's very sad. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're seeing that. We're seeing there's a lot of reasons we're seeing a lot of increase. The good news is that there's a lot of folks that we serve that are now getting into homes and getting whether they need disability or they're getting jobs. There is some momentum and some good things happening that are helping our folks. It's a revolving door too. You know, sometimes you have people who will live on the streets their whole life, but other times you have new faces, new issues, you know, and so, you know, we're just there to meet all the new people. And I wanted to say, it was cool the other day, it's the little things sometimes you don't think about, like just praying before a meal, how that impacts people.
Yes.
And I try to, you know, the folks that pray, we have, I do some of the prayers, and then some of the volunteers do some praying, and then the homeless folks do some praying. One of my personal goals is when I pray, I definitely want the folks to know that, you know, prayer is that God will protect them and lead them and guide their path and give them joy through, even though they have tough circumstances. And when you pray for someone, you'll be surprised who will come up and start having a conversation with you and how that impacts them.
Yes.
Yep.
So we've had
It's
some
huge.
good, yeah.
And
So
Lebo,
just
we
praying
have people.
meal.
Yes. Well, we have people that we serve that have, well, we've been doing this 16 years. And we have people that have been there for 16 years too. Some people that aren't either mentally or emotionally able to get off the streets or to hold down a job or to even keep an apartment. And yet they count on us, not just for food, but family.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then kind of how I view it, you know, it's I'm sure you guys, both of you being pastors, you know, it's the same as your church. Your church is your family. It's your one large family, like our motto: "We are metal, we are family," and that's how we approach the homeless ministry. We want everybody to know they belong, that we're there for them, that we care about them, and that they can come to us about anything, and we'll listen and try to give guidance, mentoring, and in any way that the Spirit provides us opportunity to.
Yes. And we could tell a million stories, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, we found that to be true up here in Wisconsin. You know, obviously I've seen it down by you guys when I've had the opportunity and privilege to serve with you guys, and up here too, that we get people that when we feed, some of them aren't even hungry. You know, it's pretty rare, but they'll still just come just to have the camaraderie and the fellowship with one another. And, you know, we have an old couple that's getting married. They live in the same hotel, loosely phrased hotel, and they're getting married. And, you know, last week we had the opportunity to pray with them and, you know, just celebrate a little bit. And But I think the community and fellowship is just as important as the material stuff.
It's huge. And we've
Yeah.
actually done a few weddings under the bridge
That's
with
great.
homeless guys. That's where they chose to do their wedding because that was the place that was meaningful to them. So, yeah, that's awesome, Bob. And that really makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Well, Lebo, thank you for joining us. I realize you're en route, and you have a good time. And thanks for dropping in.
All right. Well, thank you. Y'all be blessed and have a great day.
Thanks, Lebo.
Bye-bye. Well, do we have Jonathan with us today?
Jonathan is not in the green room.
Okay, then I guess we don't. That's all right.
Yeah.
So, Bob, I thought it might be kind of a cool idea. We thought it might be kind of a cool idea to spend a little bit of time with questions and comments at the end here.
I think that would be fantastic.
And do we have anybody that has written in or that has voiced any kind of questions?
Well,
comments?
and we should certainly clarify that it doesn't have to be anything deep and theological, though that is welcome. But any questions in general are just fine with us. We did have one going back to our conversation. Says, speaking of Tourniquet, I haven't seen any updated if they are putting on a new album, and I believe they are.
They are actually.
Yep.
Yes, they are. And, we'll have Ted with us one of these days on the show.
Of course, Ted being the drummer.
The drummer. I've been involved with Tourniquet since their beginning. Actually, I'm on, I think, 2 Tourniquet albums.
You play the Skizik's Dilemma, don't you?
I played the Satanic Calliope in Skizik's Dilemma.
And that's what I call myself after I have 15 bean soup, the Satanic Calliope. So, just saying.
That's awesome. But yeah, I forgot the name of the album, but it's one of the older albums.
Oh, Pathogenic Ocular Dissonance.
Yes.
Yep.
Good for you, Bob. You're on top of this stuff.
Well, I'm trying.
Yeah. And then I did some voice work on another one about a raven. I can't remember what this song was called.
Onward to Freedom?
No, it had the word raven in it, I think.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, on one of the albums a couple years ago. But, Ted keeps cranking them out. There isn't a better musician around. I remember when I was learning my part for Skizik's Dilemma, and he's the drummer, and so I was sitting at the keyboard, getting ready to do it and trying to learn it, and he says, "Well, let me just play it for you here on the guitar," and he grabbed the guitar and just
wow.
And I thought, wow, that's amazing. He's really good on the guitar, and I was kind of struggling with one part. And he goes, "Well, let me just play it for you on the keyboard."
Oh,
and he came over on the keyboard, and it was equally as good. And the guy is just a really talented guy, songwriter, producer, all of those things. So it's always a celebration when a new Tourniquet album comes out.
It is. It is.
Yes.
They're them and Barren Cross. They're the pillars of Christian metal. So,
and we would love to see another Barren Cross album.
I think
that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But
Andrew says, so when are you going to have a chat with a couple of truck drivers?
I thought of that yesterday, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have Andrew and Dana Nelson? They're both truck drivers. They're both listening as they're driving. And let's do that next week.
Well, Andrew and Dana, get in touch with Pastor Bob Beeman and get your email address to him so that I run the tech side of the show. So that way we can get you in, and how about if we include them in the Where Are You Now segment?
Let's do it. That would be awesome.
Just don't violate your trucking rules by airing from the cab while you're driving. I don't know how that works, but just don't get in trouble.
Well, and the cool thing is that Andrew and Dana have both been, friends of Sanctuary for, probably 30 years. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so we'd love to have them in. That would be awesome.
So Jeff doesn't have a question, but I'm glad he overcame the problem with his spider and using a flamethrower. So that's good. Must have been a big spider. I don't know.
Well, and a flamethrower probably would take care of it.
I
Yeah.
would think so. You
Yeah.
know, it worked in the movie Arachnophobia. Why not here? So,
And hopefully it wasn't that big.
right.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah, if anybody else has questions, feel free to message us. We're just kind of hanging out now at this point and talking about the different aspects of life and ministry and all of that. So,
Yes. So, Bob, you know, you're going through 16 things that you've learned in 16 years of pastoring.
yes.
Great podcast.
Thank you.
And I'm doing this one this week.
Yes.
And it says, "Don't be a dumb sheep." At the mug too. And we're talking about, you know, living in the world, but not being part of it. And I know you've been tackling those subjects, as have Don and Chris and many of our podcasters. And it's something that's really on our hearts. And Bob, as we see the world becoming more and more woke every day, and it's an interesting word that's being used, the word woke, but I think it's a good one.
Yeah.
We want to waken the woke, and we want to make sure that if you're a sheep, and the Bible says that you are, if you're a Christian, you know, the separating the sheep from the goats, and he says, "My sheep hear my voice," but we got to be listening.
Yeah.
So be an informed, listening, following the scripture sheep, and not a dumb one.
Yes.
And so that's what I'm talking about. You're covering some of those same things. And I just want to remind everyone that we have a lot of podcasters doing a great job. And we didn't include any of them today, but we will. And we got some new ones starting out too. So
it's quite the
that'll be
lineup
fun.
coming up. And yeah,
Yeah.
it is something, you know, you being in ministry as long as you have, and me, I've been in ministry for 26 years as vocational ministry, I call it.
Yeah.
16 of those years as a pastor of a church. And yeah, it's easy to come up with a list of 16 things that I've learned. And
I was going to say, how do you keep it to just 16?
yeah, right. It's the Cliff Note version. So
yeah, right.
But, you know, it's some of the things I see nowadays are people, you know, the climate of today has changed people so much that sometimes I see people coming into the church thinking, and this is nothing new, but thinking they're God's gift to the church. You know what I'm saying? And they come at it from the perspective of they know everything that's going on, you know, and all that stuff. And it's like, you know, and I'm okay with those conversations, but the problem when we get into those modes, and I enjoy that, I enjoy talking about those things, but we forget then how to love people. And I think that's a huge thing. Like, they make it their ministry to be a Facebook quarterback, basically, and they forget that, hey, that's great, you know, all this stuff, but what are you doing to serve? What are you doing to love people? What are you doing, you know?
Yes.
So,
And Bob, and you know, speaking of that, I don't think any of us do that on our own. I don't think we know about love until we connect with God and we receive his agape love.
yeah.
And I think when our hearts are broken that way, and it's a good thing,
Yeah.
and instead of judgment, we feel mercy. We feel we mourn sin instead of, you know, shaking our finger. And when our hearts change with that kind of love, it's a game changer. And I have to say, you know, just a few weeks ago, I celebrated my 64th spiritual birthday. 64 years ago, I became a Christian, and I thought, and I've said this before, but I thought I would be a spiritual giant by now. I thought I would be this guy that knew everything, that kind of walked on air and didn't touch the ground, you know. And and I used to think of those people that have been Christians for so long as just these huge icons of the faith. And in reality, I'm disappointed at where I'm at. I'm disappointed that I'm not further along. And I see today how much further I really need to go spiritually. And that has increased every single year, not decreased. And I love that part about it, because at the end of the day, and we get on our knees, it's all about you, Lord. It's not about me. I can't do it, you know.
Yep.
And Jamie says visions become real after God breaks your heart. Absolutely.
It does. Absolutely does.
Yeah. Bob, do you kind of feel like the people that you trust the most are the people that have been the most broken?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I shared a clip of a quote on Sunday in my message, and I believe it happened to Taylor Swift. Now, I realize this is Sanctuary and Taylor Swift are two different things. But early on, there was an interview with her, and while she was trying to get a record deal, and I think it was, I'm positive it was her, she sang with such a pure voice. Everybody liked her. She was a young kid, all of this stuff. And one record exec, and they can't claim who, said, "Can you imagine what she's going to be like when her life gets devastated? You know, when she experiences hurt."
Wow.
In other words, yeah, she's doing fine right now, but can you imagine how much better she's going to be when she gets knocked down?
Yeah.
You know, and
That's
think
amazing.
it is. And I think that's so true of us. You know, it's the ones that have been hurt, knocked down, been around the block that really are the ones that bring life.
Yes. Well, and you know, having Jim and Ray on the show today, these guys, both of them, been broken so many times, and I know that because I'm close friends with them, and it's I see what is produced in them spiritually, which is incredible. Yeah.
Well, on a little more lighthearted topic, Aaron says, seems as though many bands have moved to the East Coast. Is there anything you know of here in the West Coast and Southern California? That's your old area.
Yeah, isn't that something? Because really, things started there. And one of the albums that we did early on, you know, was California Metal, because that's where a lot of the bands were from.
Yeah.
And I had planned to do not just California Metal. We did Volume 1 and Volume 2. But I wanted, and did we do East Coast Metal? I think we might have. I wanted to do Southern Metal, and there's a couple others that I had planned that we just never got to because we started recording all the bands. But you know, back in the day, that's where a lot of the bands had come from. Music has become so scrutinized, and things have changed, you know, so much. I'm sorry. I don't know how to stop that.
That's okay.
Well, it'll stop by itself. I'm
Right.
sorry. But anyway, so, you know, this is throwing me off a little bit. Okay. There we go. You know, and it was one of those things that said scam likely. So it wasn't a real phone call anyway.
There you go.
You know? And I should have turned my phone off, and it's sitting over there across the room. So, but anyway, so I think because things are getting so bad, so many people have moved out of California. I'm one of them. Jim and Ray are some of those, you know, and I think people have kind of moved out of the area, and there are other hotspots these days, you know. Austin, Texas is one of them. And Nashville, of course, that's the reason I moved to Nashville, because the music industry moved here, especially the Christian industry. So it's kind of, but I do see a lot of bands coming out of the East Coast. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
And Christian punk is still a thing here in Southern California. I got to go to the Christian punk show soon. That's awesome. And it is. And we're going to have the guys from Crucified on our show before too long to talk about the early days of Christian punk and what's going on with it. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Yes.
John Skaggs asked anything about the Sanctuary app.
Well, we're still working on that, aren't we, Bob?
We are.
We keep running into roadblocks. We're still trying to figure out the best way to do it. And I'm hoping we can get it. You know, we are on our last strike on Facebook,
Yeah.
they gave us a warning: one more time and we're out. We're closed down. And the only violations that we've had are just spiritual.
Yeah. That's
They don't like the content.
um,
YouTube, people are being closed down all the time. So we know that things are a little rocky. And you can always go to our website, and maybe we can put that up also, Bob,
yeah, we can do
to
that.
sanctuaryinternational.com, or here we are metalwarefamily.com, either one. But if you haven't joined the mailing list, please do that, because wherever we end up, whatever we end up having to do, if we go the route of the app, which I'm hoping that we do, but whatever route we take, we can let you know where we're at. And we are other places. We're on Rumble, we're on Telegram,
Twitch.
we're on other places,
Yeah, we're
but
on
we
Twitter.
realize that it's volatile.
Yeah. Well, here's a question for you. Again, a lot of us have known you for years, Pastor Bob, and some may have not. And so I think this is a fair question. Somebody just genuinely wanting to know. And that is, it just updated as I hit the button. Austin says, hope you don't mind me asking, do you have any children and grandchildren?
I love that question. And the answer is yes. I have tens of thousands of them.
Hey, that's right.
Can I just tell my story really fast, Bob?
Yeah.
I was engaged 4 times to 3 different people, twice to the same person, before I realized that God was calling me to be celibate, and I didn't even know what that meant. But I knew that that's what he was telling me to do. And I was the guy in high school that was voted the most likely to get married first. I wanted to be married. I wanted to have a family. I loved dating. And so that was me in those days. And the thought of being single, it didn't make sense to me, because because I come from a great family like you do, Bob. It was so important to me. So I decided that's what I would do. And then I was in the process of, helping to pioneer Christian rock and getting involved in these things. And I realized many years later, decades later, that I could not have been married and done this. There were threats on my life in the early days. It took up so much time. And I understand how much time a family takes, how much nurturing a family takes. And I remember one time crying out to God and just saying, I feel a little cheated, because every time I see a baby, every time I see a family with kids, I think, I just wish that was me. And God said, I've given you thousands.
Yeah.
And I want you to treat them as family. So whenever somebody introduces me as the father of Christian metal, I take that very seriously, because I feel like a father, and I feel like God answered my prayer to be a father.
Yeah.
And so it's a very sobering thing. And so I do have children and grandchildren.
Yeah.
We're seeing, I'm seeing almost 4 generations in some.
I'm going to say you probably have great grandchildren.
Yeah.
As they say, you are the Gandalf of Christian metal. So
there you go.
So, yeah, that's a great outlook on it and everything. And I've heard that story before, but there's a lot of newbies that come to Sanctuary and they need to know about this, the story that you have there. So
sure.
Yeah.
So I am single. My mom lives with me. I still live with my mom.
There you go.
She's 91 and still trying to keep up with her.
A phenomenal lady. She'll run circles around most people.
Oh yeah, she will. She still does a lot of cooking and works with the homeless ministry. So
on the technical end here, I'm just curious if you know about the beeping during your broadcast on YouTube. I don't hear any beeping in my office. I don't know if you have any in yours, but it could be a YouTube issue as well. So
it could be, yeah, because I've never heard any beeping. So That's interesting.
Aaron says you fathered many in the faith. Love you, Pastor.
Thank you so much, Aaron. I appreciate that. That
So,
really does mean a lot to me.
yep, and
Jamie's here. Jamie
Yeah.
Ellen. Yeah,
So-
thank you so much. He
Yeah,
says
well-
very grateful for Sanctuary. We're a metalware family. Jamie's been a friend of the ministry forever. He actually went to Sanctuary in California.
Oh, there you go.
Awesome
great.
guy. Yeah.
You know, here's what you and I've had this discussion before, and we're coming up on the end of the show, and I get that. But if Sanctuary was ever to start a festival, I know there's talks about it and stuff like that, a music fest. It's evident that the thrust of it is fellowship. Can I go on a limb here?
Yes.
It's not so much about the music; it's the fellowship.
Yes.
And I think that's a huge part. You know, the music is awesome and needs to be there in the ministry. But wow, it just these times that we have together just are so valuable, and just points to the fact that, you know, we are metal, we are family, and family has fun times and fellowship together.
And you know, Bob, I've helped now to pioneer 22 festivals around the world.
Wow.
And it's been awesome. And a lot of it has to do with, you know, meeting the pastors in the city that don't want us to bring in satanic Christian music. And,
Yeah.
you know, we get that every time. But it's also kind of setting a tone. And the one thing that I always tell them is that I want our festivals to be church camp.
Yeah.
For metalheads. Because, you know, when you go, you have this fellowship, you make connections. When you come home, you're sad because you enjoyed it so much and you made all these new friends, and it just became the most meaningful thing. And I've heard that from so many people around the world once they go to the festival, that it was the most meaningful time in their lives, not because of the music, but because of the fellowship, like-minded people.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes.
So, well, we're gonna have a good show next week. We're gonna be back on with new guests and all sorts of things. So again, all the promo stuff will come out in the next couple of days, and it'll be next Wednesday at 9 a.m. And again, if you have questions at all during the week that you want us to address, go to email us 2pbs@sanctuaryinternational.com, and we would love to hear from you, and we'll address those questions on the air. So
awesome. Well, Bob, it's good hanging with you.
You as well. It's my highlight of my week.
Yeah, mine. It always is. It always is. Absolutely. And we will see you all next week. Blessings to you.
Bye-bye.